Okay, here's the demo for intubation with the GlideScope Go using S.A.L.A.D technique during a cardiac arrest. All providers have applied proper PPE for aerosolizing procedures, including gown, gloves, eye protection, face shield, and N95 mask. Patient is currently being ventilated with a BVM. Inline end-tidal waveform capnography has already been applied and is attached to the monitor. The intubator has prepared his airway supplies, including the GlideScope Go with appropriate blade, endotracheal tube with the GlideScope stylet, tube tamer, backup supraglottic airway, suction, as well as another backup of surgical crike. Oxygen tank is ready, and we have additional oxygen tanks if necessary. So we'll proceed with the intubation.
After your next breath, go ahead and pull everything out.
So starts by suctioning, gross suctioning of the airway before inserting the blade. Once the blade's inserted midline, he walks down the tongue, looking for the epiglottis, suctions further, and then parks the suction on the right side or the left side of the blade. Then inserts the endotracheal tube on the right side, midline. When the tip of the tube is near the glottic opening, advances, pops the stylet 2 inches to allow further movement at the distal end of the tube and advance farther. Securing the tube, he's then able to remove the stylet caudally, inflate his tube,
Go ahead and attach the BVM.
attach the BVM with waveform capnography, confirming that you have good waveform capnography. And notice the blade is still left in the mouth, so you can actually visualize misting in the tube during the first few ventilations. Now he'll secure the tube using the tube tamer. Suction's removed. Once the strap is applied, then clamps down onto the endotracheal tube and the tube is secure. Okay, here's a little more attention on the S.A.L.A.D technique. Gross suctioning being done, the blade is then introduced. Suction continues now with a digital view, and then the suction catheter is moved over to the left side of the blade and seated in the esophagus. Got a good view. Epiglottis is in the top third of the screen, view of the glottic opening, and ready to intubate. As the tube approaches the glottic opening, slot machine maneuver.
All right, so today I'm going to be demonstrating intubation using the S.A.L.A.D technique. I've got all my equipment set up here. I've got my GlideScope, my ET tube, my suction with a decanter catheter. I've got my tube tamer, I've got my backup airway, and my crike pit should I need to get to that point. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take I've ensured all my equipment is set up appropriately. I'm going to take my suction catheter, I'm going to start suctioning the airway to remove any gross contaminants. I'm going to take my GlideScope, introduce it midline following the tongue. I'm going to keep my suction catheter ahead of the GlideScope to keep the camera clean. Introduce it down, get my view, do my epiglottis or my epiglottis view, still suctioning. I'm going to move the catheter over to the left side of the GlideScope to allow room for my intubation to proceed, all while maintaining my view. Once I have everything set up, I'm going to make sure I got that good view, take my ET tube, introduce it, pass it into the trachea. Pop the stylet to allow further introduction. Advancing. Keep advancing until it's in place. Going to inflate the balloon to hold it in place. I'm going to remove the stylet, all while keeping the camera in place to be able to view everything.
Andrew, could you back out and demonstrate the slot machine portion of the advancing of the tube?
Sure. So the slot machine portion allows the tube to fall right into place. So we'll put the stylet back in. And what that is once you get everything in place, the tube is going to naturally want to go into the esophagus. Best way to correct that is to pull back like you're pulling the handle on a slot machine, and it slides right into place. So to demonstrate the slot machine technique, you can see I've got my suction catheter in place on the left side. I've got my glide scope in place with a good view. As you can see, the way the stylet and the tube are set up, it naturally wants to go into the esophagus. The best way to correct that, just before you get into place, pull back like you're pulling on a slot machine handle, and it slides right in where you want it to go.